Hello and welcome to the Introduction to the Arts in Early Years Moodle course. So let's have a dive into the course objectives and understand what it is that we want you to get out of this course by the time you're done with it. So the objectives of the course, let's look at number 1, to explore the concepts and principles of art within the context of early years practice. We want to unpick what art means, how it relates to early years, and how you can embed principles of art into your work with the children. Our second objective is to understand how the language of art can be a means of personal expression and a tool for communication for young children. And that we will explore throughout the course. That will be weaved into each and every aspect of what we're looking at. Our third objective is to appreciate how experience with a range of art-based materials can support children's development and development in all domains, but we're especially going to be looking at emotional, social, and sensory motor development. And of course, we're going to be looking at what art materials mean and what the range of art materials actually are. And then to understand different approaches to art with children, and for you to develop a repertoire of activities and art ideas to support arts education and arts input within the work that you're doing in the early years. And that's not just about having one or two art ideas. There's a whole section in the course where we're going to look at art ideas, and the aim is that you can bookmark some of the resources that we're looking at and come back to them at a future date, or add them to your portfolio of resources that you use as an early years practitioner that you can obviously come back to at some point in your practice. Okay, so to explore the role of the early years practitioner in supporting and developing arts with children. So what is your role as the adult? And again, we've included some of that in the early years foundation stage section, and we've also weaved elements of the adult's role throughout the course. So another key objective is for you to appreciate the importance of process over product when facilitating arts in the early years. And we have a whole section on the course that looks at that is anti-template, anti-copy, anti-colouring in, and really focuses on how we can support the children's process and the difference between process art and product art. And finally, to recognise what good practice in arts education within an early years context looks like and how to achieve it. Arts education in the early years is super important. It supports children's development. It supports their relationships with each other. It helps them to understand themselves and the world. It's a means of expression, and it supports communication. And arts in the early years can be done right from when children are babies all the way up until obviously they're 5 and for the rest of their lives, actually. So this Moodle course is an introduction to supporting arts education in the early years, in early years settings with children. And we're going to explore topics ranging from what is art and art philosophy. The course is going to start broad and look at notions of the arts, especially where it links with the early years foundation stage, expressive arts and design. And as the course progresses, we'll focus more and more and more, not just on art forms, but specifically on art and doing art and art activities with children. So section 1 is about philosophy and development, and we in this section, we're really looking at the philosophy of arts education in an early years context and how arts education supports children's development. That's really the nature of this first section of the course. We'll start off with the notion that art is natural to children and not something that is taught, but something that happens. We will provide, as early years practitioners, lots of opportunities for children to engage in art, whether that is part of continuous provision, things that are out all the time, for example, a mark making table or a painting easel. And there should be opportunities during children's free play and continuous provision to have plentiful art opportunities with different materials each session available for children to freely use, with some adult support or guidance if necessary, and as part of delivering activities to children. So that's adult planned activities. So both art is important in continuous provision, as part of free play, as part of the environmental setup, but also art is important in terms of planned activities that you do with children, and that's right across the age span. We'll look at how art supports development, imagination, creativity, how it supports fine motor skills, and of course, one of the things that we need to remember with art, there's a lot of mark making, paint on paper, paint on other paintable surfaces, creating crafts, crayons. So mark making is a big part of what art is. And of course, mark making is definitely the precursor to writing. And through art, children also develop problem solving skills and they understand and make sense of the world. In this section on philosophy and child development, we will also look at what the adult's role in children's play is. As we look in section 1, we also explore the early years foundation stage, the EYFS, and we look at what the EYFS says about children's development, what the requirements of the EYFS curriculum are in terms of art. And as I said, we start to explore the adult's role in children's play. And there's also a video of Emma, the manager at Rainbow Nursery, who shares her thoughts and practice about arts in the early years. What I must tell you at this point is the course starts off broad and looks at arts as a notion, and as the course develops, we funnel down and down more into looking specifically at art as an art form. So section 2 is all about exploring what creativity is and asking ourselves the question, what is creativity? And obviously that's very broad, and creativity has applications to lots of different domains, not just art. And even in the early years setting, you can think about imaginary play, small world play, role play, singing, movement, dance, all of these aspects link into the notion of creativity and support and develop children's creativity. So we will start this section by asking those broad questions: what is creativity? And looking to define creativity. So we offer in the course many different definitions of creativity, and actually you even have the opportunity to write your own definition of creativity after you've reviewed the literature that we have provided you with. And certainly one of my favorite explanations that we're going to look at in the course is starting off with nothing and ending up with something. So that's my definition of choice. We will also look at the importance of supporting children's creativity and tips and ideas on how to do that, especially within an arts-based context and more specifically art-based context. We move on to looking at templates and colouring in, which is one of the things that I hate most in the world is having children colour in or follow templates. We're going to find out why. And in this section, we're also going to explore the difference between product-based art and process-based art that I already spoke about for a few minutes in the introduction. And there's a super fun and exciting activity in that section where you get to sort examples of children's art into process art and product art. And in section 3, this is all about good practice in art education, and it's developed using the ITAS scale, the Infant and Toddlers Environmental Rating Scale. And this is an international scale that many of you will already be familiar with by now. There is a separate ITAS course that you can do, and I would recommend that you do that if you haven't already done it, so that you have the full context of what ITAS is. But the ITAS scale, especially in relation to art, we're looking at item 16. There are 33 items altogether in ITAS. And this section of the course will look at item 16, which describes what good practice is. Well, it actually does more than that. It describes what inadequate practice is, which you would come out at a number 1 if you were inadequate. It describes what minimal practice is. This is the minimal that any early years provision should be doing in relation to art. Then looking at grading number 5, it describes what good practice in art education is, and goes on to number 7 in the rating scale and looks at what excellent practice in arts education is. And obviously what we should be doing is striving for excellence, thinking about what we can do, how we can adjust and develop our practice to reach that number 7. And the whole idea of putting this ITAS section into this course is for you to self-evaluate and review what is going on in your early years classroom to see where you're currently coming out on the scale. You'll have an opportunity or a requirement in this course to complete that self-evaluation in relation to item 16, and then to think about what can you do to improve and develop practice. And also within the ITAS section of the course, I have given you some of Sammy's famous top tips. So welcome to section 4. In section 4, we're going to be looking at art materials, and we're going to be looking at safety versus creativity, how to keep children safe, tips for using scissors, and obviously in my 20-year experience of working with children during art activities, children have definitely cut each other's hair. So what can you do? How can you support supervision to try and minimize those occasions? We're going to be looking at how to select safe resources, looking at toxic and harmful supplies, and exploring the right materials to use, suitable materials to choose from. And there's a little bit in there about using clay as well as a medium for children's art. Section 5 of the course gives you the opportunity to explore and to develop your repertoire of ideas. It's split into different sections. The first section in section 5, the first subsection, I should say, focuses on painting, different types of painting. There's an interesting Nursery World article to look at as well on painting, and of course some quizzes to do. And in this section, after each subsection where you've looked at different types of art ideas, you have the opportunity or the requirement to then write your own something you've learned from that subsection and how you will do that type of activity in your classroom. So for example, for the first subsection, at the end of that, you write one of the painting activities that you will now implement in your classroom as a result of looking at those art activity ideas. The second subsection in section 5 looks at diverse media, which is model making, craft activities, etc. And of course, at the end of that section, you also have the opportunity to reflect and to give one idea that you're now going to do in your classroom as a result of reviewing the ideas that we've provided you with. The third subsection is dough, Play-Doh and clay. The fourth subsection is about art outside, looking at outside art activities and ideas. And of course, you then have the opportunity to give your art activity that you're going to do, large scale art projects. And there's a video in there with showing an example from Rainbow Nursery, actually from many years ago. And if you look carefully, you'll see a very young Eddie in that video. Messy play is the last section, which I guess isn't formally or officially art, but messy play often lays the foundations in the earliest years of what becomes art and becomes art activities. So messy play does provide children with the opportunity to explore with the senses and to use a lot of similar skills that go into making their own artwork later on. So there's a whole section there about messy play, and 3 great booklets from Play Scotland that you have the opportunity to download and look at those messy play ideas. And it would be great to see you taking some of those ideas and using those messy play ideas in your classrooms. And the final section, subsection of this section, is an example of an early years foundation stage plan, which is all about the sandy sunset, and it shows you the art plan and it gives you the resources and walks you through how you would set up and plan an activity like that. So that is a great opportunity to learn and reflect. So in the final part of the course, there is a video that pulls everything together, the learning that's taken place, an opportunity to reflect. And there's also the CCF form, the course completion form that you are required to complete. It tells us how long you spent on the course, that you did complete the course, and just takes some of your feedback. In order to reach the course, you click on the icon that says finish with the 2 flags. And I've just popped that icon on the bottom of my screen now. You should see it on the bottom right of the screen. And that is actually the link that you click when you come to the final screen, which takes you to your CCF, the course completion form. Also, at the end of this course, there's tons of stuff that we wanted to include in the course that we didn't because we didn't have time. The course is obviously a fixed time. You have 4 hours to do the course. So there's loads of additional material that we wanted to include, but we didn't. And we put that in the further reading section. That further reading section is absolutely not compulsory. You do not need to do that in order to finish the course, but it will extend your learning in terms of arts education. So you may wish to bookmark it, download it, and either read it immediately or come back to it at a future time. So sit back, enjoy the course, and of course there's the usual quizzes and interactive exercises throughout that helps you to support and reinforce your learning. Enjoy!